Welcome to Travel Talk with Joy. I'm Joy. I've traveled to all 50 states. I've been to all 7 continents. On most of my adventures, I do it with my husband, who's a full-time wheelchair user. Come meet amazing people who travel through life a little differently as we explore the world of accessible travel. Let's go! Welcome to Travel Talk with Joy. I'm so glad you guys are here for this episode. Before we get started, though, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what we did recently. So my husband is a big-time gambler. He loves blackjack. He loves poker, all the games. And so we went out to Vegas last week, and this is the first time he's ever taken his power chair when I was with him. And it was really interesting because, we had never really thought about transportation issues, because when you use a manual chair, you just hop in a cab. So Vegas was really great, though, because they have a whole transportation system that's easy to use. You call the cab company. The most we waited is maybe 15 minutes for an accessible taxi. And, then when you're in Vegas, everything is accessible. It's pretty flat. Everything has, automatic doors. Like, it was really a great vacation. And I'm not one to gamble. I don't really like it. I'd rather have something for my money. And so for me, I think it's great too, because there's just a ton of things you can do, from shows and restaurants, and, the Hoover Dam is interesting there, and really great pools. So I recommend go to Vegas, even if you don't like gambling, because the accessibility is really great. So, but today I have a great guest. In getting ready for the Paralympics, I wanted to have a Paralympic athlete, and we have a gold medalist with us. So welcome, John Boie. He was a gold medalist on the 2020 Paralympic basketball team for the USA. So welcome, John.
Hi, how we doing?
Doing so great. I'm so excited you're with us today.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. So, okay, our audience has disabilities, doesn't have disabilities. We have a lot of different people here. So talk a little bit just about, first, your life growing up, where you grew up, and how you got your disability. Talk just a little bit in general about that for us.
Yeah, so I always call myself a farm kid. I grew up on a 200 head dairy farm in southern Wisconsin. Actually, that's where I got hurt when I was 2 years old. I was run over by a tractor so long ago, and I was so little I don't even remember it. So essentially, I've been disabled forever. So I'm a T4, T5 incomplete paraplegic. And growing up on the farm and everything, the way it was, it definitely taught me a lot of problem solving skills. I definitely credit my parents a lot for making me still do chores, feed the cows, milk the cows, we're going to go pick rocks in this field, figure it out, so that's kind of my upbringing and how it all started, at least with my disability.
How did that work with the type of wheelchair you used on a farm?
I crawled a lot, or I would just figure out a way to kind of muscle through whatever was going on. So you definitely figure out what terrains are easier than others, is how I would say it.
Wow. And so then what happened then through high school? Did you go to public high school? How did your schooling work?
Yeah, I went to public school. My mom was actually a teacher in the district, so I got to see her for a couple of years in that one school. But yeah, nobody in our town, nobody else has a disability in small town Milton. So it was definitely something you could tell people were like, oh, okay. But we, worked our way through different adaptations of whatever I needed. And, I also credit growing up on the farm, just, kind of power through and find a way to make it work.
Wow. So were kids inclusive of you, or was it like, we don't know what to do with him?
Yeah, I mean, you have your friends that are a little bit closer that probably put more of an effort, but I think most kids were pretty open to figuring out how to play with me, or include me in different games and such. It changes as you go and get older, get a little more competitive, and can jump higher and things like that. But
How did it work then with wheelchair sports? Because if you're the only kid with a disability at your school, how did you get involved in wheelchair sports?
Yeah, so I grew up very close to Whitewater, which is where I currently work. This is my office right here. I just realized I have a Warhawk head on my shirt. But Whitewater offers a wheelchair basketball camp every summer. So when I was 10 or 11 years old, I went to my first ever camp. It was my first time playing against others with a disability. And some of the counselors that are there are some of the guys that were Paralympians at the time, and unbelievable athletes. So you get your first taste of playing against others with a disability, and then also seeing what level you could potentially ever get to when you watch these older, guys play, and definitely motivated me. And also, I was like, all right, this is more level playing field. This is awesome. This is my thing.
How old were you when you first went to that camp?
I think I was 11 years old
Okay.
in my
So was it
bib
something you
overalls
just
and everything.
There's John Boy, farmer
Yeah,
boy coming to the camp.
that's me.
Wow. So you get to that camp, you see all these guys that like now I have a role model.
Yeah, there's a guy named Opie. Those in the wheelchair basketball world, everybody knows Opie. He played at Whitewater. He played on Team USA. He actually gave me his old basketball chair when I first came. So that next season, I started playing for a team out of Madison, and I already had a basketball chair that was somewhat, close to my size. And it definitely catapulted me to start playing more and more competitively.
Wow. So you're playing on a team like through high school.
Yep, yep. All through middle
Okay.
school, all throughout high school, out of Madison there. Yeah.
Do you feel that like because you got playing competitively and obviously got very good at it, did that like have a lot to do with your confidence building? How did that affect you as like a young kid?
Yeah, I think you know, growing up, I always wanted to play for the Green Bay Packers. So my dad and I would throw the football going across the driveway all the time, and I dive into bushes and whatever. Uh, you know, as I got older and then kids started getting faster and we're on grass and stuff, I'm like, you know what? Playing for the Packers might not actually work out. So let's be
Come
realistic.
on.
I know I'm a kid, but that dream might have sailed. But playing in adaptive sports, my basketball chair is like putting on, Iron Man suit. It's something that transforms me into being able to compete at the highest level, and being able to just kind of change and compete even against those with less disability than me, or more disability, but really those with less disability. It's something that levels the field, and it makes it really fun.
Wow. So, okay, so then explain for people that don't understand how this works then once you get to college and what college athletics are for people with disabilities.
Yeah, so for wheelchair basketball specifically, there are currently 11 schools, I believe, across the country you can play. And just like able-bodied sports, right? There's only a small percentage of your kids from high school that go on and play at the next level, and then go on to pro or whatever. So it's kind of the same way for wheelchair ball. And wheelchair, they change it so that you have 5 years of eligibility instead of four, just because that player pool is a little bit smaller. They want to extend the amount of time that you can play. So I made the easy choice of going to UW Whitewater right in my backyard here, 10 minutes from my parents' house, to play out my career. And a lot of people that know Whitewater, sorry, Coach Taylor, but Whitewater is kind of the Duke or the Kentucky of wheelchair basketball. A lot of guys that come here go on and play professionally, play on Team USA. It's kind of been a mecca for a long time.
It's interesting because I've always heard that about Whitewater, but you think like why Whitewater? Why not some of these other bigger schools that have more recognizable um, NCAA programs? But why do you think Whitewater got built up like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great schools and a lot of great coaches. I would never take anything away from anywhere else. I think Whitewater has a unique thing in it's a lot of really blue collar, blue chip guys that just want to get in the gym and play, 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 train, train, train. What do you need me to do? I'll do it. Right? It's I think a different mentality overall of the players that tend to come to Whitewater.
Okay. So, getting into basketball, like the details of basketball, your classification, can you explain your classification and then how that plays with other guys? Because, I think it's interesting how wheelchair basketball, a lot of people, after they're done with practice, they get up and walk out of their chair. Like, it's guys that are amputees. And it's, I think a lot of people don't have the idea of what wheelchair basketball athletes, a lot of them, their disabilities are very minimal, but they still can't compete in regular basketball. So, can you explain a little bit about the classification of basketball, yours specifically, and then how that works together on teams?
Definitely. That's a very important part of wheelchair ball, especially if you just turned on a game. You'd probably look at the sideline and be like, why wouldn't you put in those five biggest guys over there? So in wheelchair ball, everybody has a different disability, and it varies in how severe your function is or is not. So somebody that is, maybe a below the leg amputee, they have the most function. They can use their core, their hips, they can press off their other foot. So they're going to be the highest class, which is a 4.5. On the other end of the scale would be myself, actually. So I'm a 1.0. So I mentioned earlier, I'm a T4, T5 injury. So I don't have any use of my ab muscles. I can't use my hips. If you put me in a really tall chair, I'd fall over every 4 seconds, be real floppy. And then there's kind of all the gray area in between. So half point increments from 1.0 to 4.5. You could be a 2.0. You could be a 3.5. You could be whatever. Your five guys on the court have to add up to 14 points or less at any time. So often, if you see a substitution, it's not one player for another. It's usually a combination of two or three guys coming out for two or three other guys. And so that kind of changes. Everybody has different strengths, plays different positions. Usually, your guys in the paint, your center, if you will, is going to be your higher class player. People like me are not considered as much of an offensive threat. But I kind of have my own dirty work. I'm like the offensive lineman, setting the blocks and taking people out and opening holes and getting them to the bucket or to the hoop.
So, more assists.
Yeah, setting other people up to be successful. That's what I'm
Yeah.
there for.
Just a team player there, John Boy. I like
It's a
it.
team game. Got to do it.
Yes. So, all the college games, and then how does that then work for the USA team? Like, how's the selection process? How does that work?
Yeah. So I mean, everybody in the wheelchair basketball world isn't that big. Like you'll know most people once you've played for a few years or you've watched. Uh, that's where you need to get exposure so that the USA coaches, whoever that is in that quad, see you, and then you'll get invited to a tryout. At that tryout, you'll usually have around 30 guys or so, and they'll split you into different teams, different classifications. Maybe you don't have a class yet, so they propose your classification, and you're going to play as that. And so they kind of set you up and see how you do with different skills, how you are at being coached to. Can you learn a new system? Do you click well with certain people or certain other players? And after that, it's like a 3 or 4 day camp, 2 or 3 sessions a day. They cut it down to the final roster. So it's a pretty rigorous process. It's a very tiring several days, but that's kind of how it goes at this point.
How many people are on the Team USA?
12 rosters.
Okay. And so, like, talk a little bit about the training program because obviously you're elite athletes. And so you aren't eating, cheeseburgers and having a 6 pack of beer every night. Like, it's intense. People who may not be around elite disabled sports, it's intense, just as elite Olympic sport is. So, talk a little bit about your training regimen, and then also, how much time do you get to play with your team since you guys live all over the country?
Yeah, so our training is pretty. It's different for different people. We have some guys that play professionally overseas all year, so that's their only job over there is just to
There's a
play.
wheelchair, like a wheelchair European league.
Yeah, in Europe you get paid to play over there. So a lot of guys will
Wow.
go there and then that's their focus, is just playing basketball and doing that. A lot of the guys stateside, we play in the NWBA in Division One, so we'll end up playing against each other, but we're each on a kind of on our own club team. A couple of us are fortunate to be on the same team as one other USA guy, but also back at home, I mean, you have all your own time that you got to fit in around your job or around your kids or your wife or whatever it's going on to make sure you get your work put in. So I am very fortunate to have a gym in the same building that I work. So I'll go down and lift during my lunch break. I usually train with the college team after work, going and scrimmaging or chair skills or whatever we got going on that day. On the weekends, I play with my club team, where we have practice if it's not a tournament weekend. Saturdays are usually my more relaxing day unless we are playing somewhere. So there's a lot that goes into it. More time than somebody would think. It's 2, 3, 4 hours a day outside of work that you're in your chair in the gym.
Yeah. Are you one of these athletes that's also like sleep is important and like diet and sleep? Or are you like,
I
your
mean,
coach
as you
might be
get old,
watching?
as you get older, I know it definitely hits you different, right? When you're 21 and you're in college, you can eat whatever you want all the time. It's awesome. But nutrition is definitely a huge piece of it and something that I've learned over the years, of what you got to put in your body to be ready and at what time and how that all works, especially with travel. Travel can throw a wrench in that. Sleep is also equally important, right? So you can't be down in a six pack of beer and going to bed, right? That's not going to help you. You're not going to sleep well. It's definitely fairly regulated of what my weekly schedule is. Unless there's some crazy event that I take it off for, but
Yeah.
it's pretty consistent.
Yeah. So you said that you are able to work out and you work in the same building. What do you do?
So I daylight as a academic advisor, and then I also teach some seminar courses on campus for first generation students. So
What
kind
type
of
of
helping
courses are you
them.
teaching?
So it's a seminar class, so it kind of teaches them. So first generation, for those who don't know, is nobody in their family's ever been to school before. So it teaches them how to do college, how to access different resources, where different things are on campus, basically how to do college at a high level, especially since I've recently been in college at this same university. So
Yeah.
it's a class I really enjoy, and students tend to get a lot out of it. And of course, we always have a wheelchair basketball day where they get to come and try to play me. So
And that's really fun. It's so hard. I've played several times and, had patients that I taught how to play. And it's like, it's so hard. It seems like the basket, I don't know, needs to be lower for us, I think. It's a tough, tough sport. Um, so talk a little bit about your experience in 2020 when you guys were the gold medal team. So obviously it was a COVID Paralympics, right?
yeah, so actually it's technically 2021 because they pushed it out a year.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but they had made all the signage right, so it said 2020. But it added another year to that quad of training, which training got very unique, creative. You had to train from home on a lot of stuff. You weren't allowed to go certain places. I pushed outside a lot. I did a lot of different things, but the experience was still pretty unbelievable. As my first time at a games, seeing all the sights, seeing the village, experiencing processing, and like every little step of it is unbelievable. And of course, getting to that final game was quite a journey, but every step throughout the whole process, good, bad. I had a shoulder injury right before. It's all part of the story and is what made it special for me.
Hmm. So you said shoulder injury. Have you had a lot of injuries?
I've had various injuries throughout the years. I had torn something in my shoulder, so I had to get it repaired during that COVID year. And then I spent a lot of time at the Olympic Training Center, where they would be able to work with me 2 or 3 times a day, actually get their hands on me instead of through a video call, and get me situated to where I was to compete at those games.
Amazing that the Olympic training centers, was it the one in Chula Vista or in um, Colorado?
Colorado
Which one?
Springs. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the facility is unbelievable. From where you stay to where you eat to the weight room to the gym to all the people there that really care to make you into as good of an athlete as you can be. I mean, they push you for excellence there in every facet.
That's so cool. My husband went there, and one of the things he talked about was actually the food and how incredible the food was. And just they really think of everything. Yeah, it's amazing. So who did you guys beat in 2020 for the gold medal?
We ended up playing the home country of Japan, who was kind of a
Okay.
dark horse to make it to the gold medal game, but they really peaked during the games and did really well. So we got the honor, the privilege of playing them in their home country for a gold medal. Obviously, it didn't go their way, but it was very cool to see the fans and the how much it meant for them to play for that medal in their home country. So
So the spectators, you had spectators at the 2021 games?
only for that last game, they brought in a lot of the volunteers, which are from the home country, and
Yeah.
space people out in the stadium. But all the other games, no spectators.
Wow. Well, man, going into these games, it's going to be a completely different thing.
It's going to be loud. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be fun.
We
But we've played in a few
go sorry.
tournaments where we can see what that level of sound is like. Being able to communicate on the floor through that, and we're USA. We got a target on our back. No other countries really cheering for us. So anything that they can do to help the other countries, we know it's coming. But we got a lot of good chemistry. We can fight through that.
So great. We went to the 2012 games in London, and as just our family, our kids were 12 at the time, and it was so incredible because like we went to the gold medal game, we went to basketball, rugby, track, swimming, tennis. Like we got to see so many amazing sports, and man, those gold medal games, like it's crazy how many people came out. So I hope that Paris has that equal type of fan base.
I think it's going to be packed, and I know I got a lot of family that are coming this round that didn't get to go last time. So it'll be great to see some familiar faces up there too.
Oh, absolutely. So talk about like camaraderie on the USA team. You guys have played together a lot, and how does that work? Like,
Yeah, a term that we throw around a lot, and it's pretty valid, is brotherhood. A lot of us have won. Some of them have won two gold medals together. Some of us have won one. We've also won a world championship together. Some of the newer guys for this quad are raring to go. Really excited, which is fun to see in the newer generation that they're not content to sit back and watch the older guys play. Right? They want to come take our spot. They want to get out there. So it pushes us all to be really, really good. But off the court, I mean, a lot of these guys have been together as friends, or as rivals in college. So it's fun to have those different avenues and different paths and different teams that we all come together on the USA and get to play against each other, and then finally play with each other.
wow. So you talked about Japan. What was the accessibility like in Japan?
Japan did a really good job. For those that know their culture or kind of know of it, they're very, very respectful people, and they really care about every individual. And there's a lot of people in Japan, by the way, very packed place, but they do a really good job of accessibility and making sure things are marked and set aside so that everybody can get it everywhere, especially with how busy that place is.
Yeah. Um, did you feel like attitudes towards people with disabilities there were like, was it a positive or was it more like, yes, we made the accommodations, but it's not as inclusive? Like, how did you feel the attitudes of the people?
Yeah, I've definitely felt more that tone of your question. I felt that in other parts of the world. Japan is just you're another person, right? So, yeah, we made an
Wow.
adaptation for you, but like, hey, how can I help you? Where do you need to go? What's next? It's not like a begrudging type of attitude towards those with disabilities.
It's great to know. It's on my bucket list for sure. So have you traveled a lot with basketball?
Oh, all over the place. Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Been to
So
almost every
international
continent.
travel? Wow,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. So with like Japan, what other places did you find that were kind of like surprisingly inclusive and accessible?
Surprisingly inclusive.
Hmm.
Um, some of the South American countries are more inclusive in certain areas than you might think. Uh, I would say they overall are probably more lacking. Europe is very adaptive just because that's where we have a professional league. Although there is a lot of old things built there, right, that don't have ramps, that if you've ever pushed across cobblestone, that sucks. It's awful. So definitely some places more than others, and other places, their infrastructure is just a little bit older, but they're doing everything they can to update and make things a little bit easier going forward.
Hmm. What was the most challenging place you've traveled to?
Uh, Probably Mexico or Colombia would probably be up there on the list.
Wheelchair
Um,
basketball in Colombia?
yeah, yep.
Wow. What was that tournament? That's interesting.
That was one of our zonal qualifiers. So you get to win or place high in your zone to go to world championships. So that's kind of on the odd numbered years after Paralympics or after world championships.
I would have never thought Colombia would be the host of a wheelchair basketball tournament.
Yeah, we've been to Peru. We were just in Chile last fall. So all
Hmm.
over.
Wow. Um, so traveling's obviously exposed you to so many different cultures, and perspective on disability in different cultures. Um, when you think about like your own experience with growing up and then now thrust into this international travel competitive experience, like that is such a jump from milking cows on a farm to being a Paralympic athlete traveling the world. Like that's a really interesting story.
Yeah, it's some of my friends give me a little bit of crap that I still live in Whitewater and work here. I'm like, hey man, I play basketball. I travel the country with my club team. I travel the world with Team USA. I've been places that I never thought I would. I've eaten at Michelin star restaurants in Peru. I've gone to Japan several times. I'm excited to do more, but and to go back and actually visit some places not playing basketball, just kind of on vacation. Definitely has helped me point out some places I would go back to and some that maybe I would pass on next time.
Yeah. So when you travel, um, I look at like how around the world there's really so many different ideas of accessibility, you know, and um, when you travel, what is the thing for you that you're like, okay, this is really the most important thing for me to get when I'm traveling, as far as like accommodations wise?
Yeah, I mean, I think wherever you end up staying is pretty important. I can make a non-accessible bathroom work, but having a shower that's adapted with a shower chair and being a little bit wider, a little bit bigger, so it's easier to get in and out, is pretty important for me. On the planes, I'm still got that stubborn farm kid in me, so I usually monkey my way on the chairs to get to my seat. But I always ask for a seat up towards the front, which they usually end up granting you anyways, and your companion, whoever you're with, as you know. Those are pretty important things for me. And then transportation when I'm there, right, is something you always have to look at way far ahead. Is, do they have accessible public transportation? Am I going to need to bring hand controls with me? Different things. Really problem solving ahead of time.
Hmm. As far as transportation goes, like since you have traveled so much extensively overseas, where do you think has the best public transportation internationally?
Probably Europe. Europe probably has the best, the most offered, and I think they've seen so many people with disabilities that as you're coming up, they kind of see you and they get ready. So it doesn't slow down everything for everybody else because I don't want to slow down everybody else's day. And at the
Yeah.
same time, they're like, "Yep, it's just another person in a wheelchair. Let me get this ramp down, get it going, get them on. All right, here we go. Let's go to the next stop." So I think
Yeah.
they've just been exposed to so many more individuals with a disability that they're ready for it and they're more used to it.
Yeah. Going to a wheelchair basketball tournament, there's, I mean, 100, 500, so many guys in chairs. So many guys in chairs. Like
Mhm.
from the planning perspective, it's just insane. And I think it's so interesting how these places that you wouldn't normally think would be that accessible, like they're hosting these tournaments. And I just think it's amazing just because when you think in general, how many people do you see in a wheelchair every day out there? A couple people, maybe. But to have like 500 guys for a tournament and just the um that like an eye-opening for people to be like, wow. I think it's great what wheelchair sports does for things around the world, not just from sport, but for people's perspective on disability.
Mhm. Yeah, I really enjoy my times like going through the airport or going to different tournaments. Even when I'm on the leg of the trip where I'm on my own or just with one teammate, because you're wearing USA wheelchair basketball. People come and want to talk to you. They see you with another your basketball chair. They're like, what is that? A racing chair? No. So you can kind of talk them through and educate different people on things. And even talking about the Paralympics, heading up to going to that. Whenever I go to Colorado, right, everybody knows about the training center. If you're flying into Denver or the Springs, you're likely going that direction, especially if you look any bit like an athlete. So it's great during travels to kind of have people come ask questions and invite them and kind of teach them what's going on in the world.
Yeah. I think there's still a an education that needs to happen for a lot of people of what is the Paralympics? Is that the Special Olympics? Like
Oh,
people
that's the worst
still,
one. That's the worst one.
I know. So let's go ahead and talk about that for a second. Like, oh, so when people say, "Oh, you're on the Paralympic wheelchair basketball team," so is that the Special Olympics?
Hmm.
John, is that the Special Olympics?
Yeah, no, I count to 10
What's I mean,
sometimes. No, the
like,
Special Olympics I think is a great organization, right? It's
mhm,
meant for those with more of a cognitive disability going on, and that has its own place, and that's great for those people. I think mixing it up with Paralympic sports, where the training is just like an Olympian, but with different challenges, different adaptations. People need to kind of understand that and see that a little bit more. And I think when they just view a game, honestly, or get in a chair and play against you for 2 minutes, they get a little bit more of that perspective. So it's in the moment. It's just being calm and educating them on what those differences are, but also inviting them to kind of take part and view. And the Paralympic movement has been amazing in the last couple of quads with the amount of sponsorships that are going to Paralympic athletes, commercials. I saw myself on TV a couple weeks ago. Didn't
that's
even know I was
awesome.
on a cable commercial. So it's awesome that that stuff is happening, and I think more and more people are getting appreciative of it. And I know like Paris is sold out, Tokyo was sold out before COVID, even above some of the Olympic sports. So it's
Wow.
getting a lot of traction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's such incredible sport, number one. And then you think of like the stories behind the people that are playing is amazing as well. And uh, I think that people say it's can be inspirational, and it's okay to be inspirational.
Mhm.
And you know what I mean? Like we need more inspiration. And my husband, people, I said, "Oh, you're such an inspiration," and he's like, "Thank you," because it's okay to be a great inspiration, to have a story of resiliency, and you come from whether you're in a wheelchair or not, but come from a farm town milking cows, and now you're a Paralympic athlete. Like it's amazing. I think there's so much that the Paralympic movement is doing now with getting more recognition. With I'm hoping like paid for medals. Like if you guys win a gold, will you get paid as an Olympic athlete? Would get paid.
Starting in Tokyo, they changed that so that we were paid the same.
That's excellent.
Makes me think I should have been a swimmer or something where you win multiple.
Literally, like I can only get one. That's not fair.
It's a pretty meaningful one. It's awesome.
Oh, it's so meaningful. Where do you keep your gold medal?
Can't tell you that. He's no, it's put away somewhere real safe in my
It's
house.
not in your office. Like I was looking around, seeing if it was on your desk.
No, maybe first day of school I'll bring it to my class, but that's about it.
It's pretty special. I hope you get another one to go in your metal closet somewhere, from Paris for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so talking about inspirations. So people say you're inspirational. I know they do, but I want to know who inspires you.
Yeah. I mean, inspiration is a word that can get thrown around in different contexts in disabilities in sports. Some people are like, "Oh my gosh, you're at the grocery store. This is an inspiration." Right? I'm like, not
Just
really,
grocery
but
shopping.
that's great if
Thanks.
you think so. I hope people watch our sports and hear our stories, just to kind of see that you can overcome different things, even if our adversity is a little bit more visible, right? Everybody has their own struggles. Maybe it's something internal. Maybe it's something going on with your family. Ours just happens to be very visible and out front. That you can have that as a little bit more of an attention seeking a thumbnail, right? That people will view it and instantly want to know what's going on. Um, as far as my inspiration, it comes from multiple sources. My parents really are one of my number ones,
Mm.
collectively, right? So pushing me as a kid to have the same expectations of doing different chores and figure stuff out. If you want to do it, cool, find a way to do it. Being very very supportive and driving me all over the place to play basketball. I also have all of my different teammates that inspire me. We push each other to be better, to always find a way to make something work, to achieve greatness. Right, that's kind of our our mentality. Is things might go wrong, you might not make every shot, but we always have the same mentality and the same maturity across our lineups. And also, I mentioned earlier in the interview, Opie has been a huge part of my life. Not only as the guy that got me my first chair, he coached me in college. He's now my coworker. He's also one of my really good friends. So if I ever need advice or just somewhere to go hang out, he's the guy I go to.
I might have to check out Opie. He's the king of wheelchair basketball.
He is a big name for sure.
Okay. Michael Jordan of the sport. Checking him out.
Huge Michael Jordan
Um,
fan, by the way. Huge.
you're a big Michael Jordan fan.
Opie is. I mean, I am too. But
Oh.
Opie's no different level. Yeah.
It's more of an obsession maybe for Opie.
Oh yeah, that would be accurate.
Yeah. When you're talking about how everybody has something, my husband always says, everybody has a wheelchair, you just don't always see it. And I think that is so valid. Everybody does have a wheelchair. You just see yours. Mine, I have a wheelchair, you just don't see it. Everybody has something. Nobody's granted a perfect life. And I think that it's it's amazing to see, though, whether it's a wheelchair that somebody overcomes, or a childhood abuse situation, or being raised in a different part of the country that doesn't have facilities, and they rise up and become an ambassador. Like everybody has something that you have to overcome, and I think it's great to share those stories. Um, so, a couple of things that I want to do, because I always end with a little bit of a popcorn questions of um, some facts that we don't know about you that the masses, of course, want to know. Ready?
Okay.
Let's go. Favorite country?
USA.
Yes. Most important to bring when you're traveling. Don't say a wheelchair.
Headphones.
Must have travel snack.
Oh, beef jerky.
Favorite movie.
Gladiator.
Yes. Beach or mountains.
Oh, mountains. There's too much sand at the beach.
Yes. Favorite sport to watch.
Football.
Go Packers.
Go Pack Go. Yep.
Go Pack Go. Last book you read.
Not a big reader, but I try to do a devotional every day, so we'll go with the Bible.
Love it. And dream trip.
New Zealand. I want to
That
go.
is worthy.
I want to go there,
Um,
see Lord of the Rings, and uh, see where that was all filmed.
yes, we went to New Zealand, and it is like my probably top three countries. Like
Really?
it's that incredible. Like the scenery is just incredible, and so different types of scenery.
Okay.
Highly
Excellent.
recommend.
Then it's definitely on my list.
Yes. Well, we're going to be cheering you on. You leave when for the games?
August 17th, we'll go over to Paris.
Okay, and when do they start?
August 29th is our first game.
Okay. So, and a lot of it will be televised on NBC, right?
Well, I'll be on NBC. Yep. Opie will actually be the commentator for those watching back home. And Matt Scott will be over in Paris with us, commentating there.
That's great. I saw that a lot of their commentators that they use, like they put through training, and they're using a lot of great commentators with disabilities
Yes, exactly. It's very
for a
cool.
lot of the sports. It's awesome. We look forward to it and wish you all the luck and no injuries. And man, just have an incredible time, but bring back a gold.
Absolutely. That's the plan.
Yes. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.